all of this together constituted a multi-month, multi-pronged conspiracy. Here's how we first reported that a year back, as 8 distinct plots to overturn the election. You can see them there. We documented how some started out legally. Upper left, November, lawsuits, fine. Even frivolous lawsuits, even lawsuits with false information are something that you can legally do in America. But then, over time, we showed you how most of the plots then involved actions that were at a minimum unconstitutional. That means not allowed, don't work, whether or not anybody goes to prison. And then some were actually appeared to be indictable as a criminal conspiracy. So this is what we showed you. This runs back over a year. People say, do facts matter? Does reporting matter? Well, I don't have to prove to you this week. Yeah, sometimes it really does, because for the first time, we can now update this same report to show you that the DOJ's Jack Smith indicted defendant Donald Trump on conspiracies across five of those long-running plots that we first reported. That's one of the things we learned this week. The DOJ and the special counsel found facts supporting this conspiracy view of the case and determined that it is provable in court, while the defendant remains legally presumed innocent and will get his day in court. Now, they did not bring a sedition or insurrection case against Trump or his aides. There have been sedition cases against other individuals. The bad news for Donald Trump is that many plots means more than one charge. And some of the strongest smoking gun evidence is in that early starting electors plot that you see there. What's second on your screen, highlighted, started in November. There's smoking gun evidence in the fraudulent electors plot because they did the fraud in writing. It involved a ton of people, and Donald Trump's aides admitted it before, during, and after.
Today, an alternate slate of electors in the contested states is going to vote, and we're going to send those results up to Congress.
Something that Rudy and the team have worked on. The Trump slate of electors are showing up today in the state capitals.
We fought to see the electors. The Trump campaign asked us to do that.
There has been an alternate slate of electors voted upon that Congress will decide in January.
Yes, I was part of the process to make sure there were alternate electors. Everything that was done legally by the Trump legal team, according to the rules and under the leadership of Rudy Giuliani.
That last admission is from Trump aide Boris Epshteyn, pointing at Giuliani as the #1 leader of the elector plot. This week, Giuliani became the #1 co-conspirator in this indictment. It details how he and Trump allegedly used the certificates of these fraudulent electors to deceitfully target the government function. Now, here's how that worked. In the real, legal world, the actual electors from every state met on December 14th, as they always do, and made it official, as the AP reported. Electoral College makes it official. Biden won, Trump lost. Now, on the conspiracy chart, that's, like you see, mid-December there. But over in fraudulent world, the indictment recounts how those fraudulent electors convened sham proceedings pretending to be the real Electoral College meeting. What you see here is what the indictment describes it as, why people are in so much trouble, and also one of those actual meetings on video. This is now what you see here, criminal evidence. Arizona Republicans met on the same day as the real Electoral College, but they held a sham fraudulent proceeding. DOJ has evidence that 6 other states pulled off this same fraud and told on themselves because they didn't just do it and hold meetings. They even posted their fraudulent certificates on the internet. So that fraud played out in the open. And let's be clear. Unlike, say, a politician giving a speech or even lying in public, what I just showed you crosses well beyond speech, which we all are supposed to respect under law. And if you really want to get in the weeds, before I did this job, I practiced First Amendment law, care a great deal personally and professionally about the First Amendment. Speech and your free speech does not protect fraudulent conduct. You have the right to say you drive a Porsche. And if you don't, you have a free speech right to lie about it. You don't have a right to fraudulently make a certificate claiming a car is a Porsche and selling it to someone else. That's just plain old business fraud if you found someone gullible enough to fall for it. It's also striking to see where Jack Smith draws a line. Some fraudulent electors have been indicted in Michigan in a different local case, for example, but others have not. And we know now what we didn't know last week, why at least Special Counsel Smith thinks justice sometimes means not charging some of those grassroots Trump fans. Because he concluded that some of them were just naive pawns, deceived by more powerful and informed Trump co-conspirators. Indictment noting that some of Trump's fraudulent electors were tricked into participating in the scheme. Now, I point that out because it shows the DOJ's precision here. It also is bad for the co-conspirators and the leaders of the plot because it adds the evidence that they knew in advance they were committing crimes. They were so clear on that point, they were even hiding and lying the full plan from the very people they recruited into it. The electors' plot was fundamentally about lying as a pretext. The idea was not that the real Electoral College would somehow implode over random people pretending to be electors in various conference rooms. I showed you the AP headline. At the time that day, the news was about the actual Electoral College, not the randos. But the plot was that it would somehow help add confusion and another pretext for the other plots to ultimately hijack the January 6th certification. And that's why Trump tried to install his own political hack at the DOJ, who would issue fraudulent announcements claiming that there were election problems. It was another pretext. Remember, Trump's own Republican appointees who replaced Bill Barr, who were leading DOJ, they wouldn't go along with that. So he explored installing the now indicted DOJ vet, Jeffrey Clark, a plan that fell apart when Trump saw and was told that the ensuing mass resignations would set his coup plan backward, something first detailed in those January 6th committee hearings. So here you can actually see the three plots, getting the states or DOJ involved to push the elector fraud, right? So on the map you're looking at, number 3, states, DOJ interference there in the middle, and the elector fraud up top. All of those are interrelated. I'm showing you exactly how to think about a conspiracy, what the investigators found, and what a jury will ultimately decide, because all three of those are in the new charges. Smith citing the letter I just mentioned as illegally trying to abuse DOJ authority to falsely present the fraudulent electors. And as Trump hoped the DOJ would shake down Georgia's legislature, he personally hammered the state's top elections official in that recorded call. It was a lot of plotting. Now, as you know, some of those plans just fizzled. The DOJ thing totally died. Georgia officials did not jump in and try to help Trump steal the race from their own constituents. So by late December, that elector plot might have seemed like a misfire which was fading away. It certainly wasn't getting a lot of public political or press attention at the time. But that plot, which is now one of the worst smoking gun evidence pieces of the indictment that could now land Trump in prison, it kept coming back. It was the zombie scene in this now indicted conspiracy story. So even when other people beat it back or warned Trump against such obvious fraud, the zombie electors kept coming back. It continued from those early origins, as I showed you on the upper left of this chart, all the way through the January 6th certification itself, literally. So that as Pence arrived to preside, we can see in the new indictment this week, Smith busts the zombie elector plot coming back to life, and he pins it on Trump and co-conspirators, saying they caused the fraudulent electors to transmit their false certificates now to the vice president. They really did that. They took it all the way from those weird conference room meetings and their little internet postings all the way to the floor of Congress on January 6th. This is part of the indictment. And that day, again, the investigators go back to the scene of the crime. Nobody knew other than those participants that as Pence, who you see on the right, walking in to preside on January 6th, just around 12:58 p.m., as he's walking in, within the same hour, Republican Senator Ron Johnson's aide pushing the fraudulent elector certificates, the zombies back to life. We're lining up the video here with their secret, now exposed texts. And a Pence aide didn't want the fraud near the boss, replying there, do not give that to him. They're talking about the zombie elector fraud. Now, what did Pence know that day? Way more than everybody else. He knew all about Trump's plots, how many there were, He knew that his own lawyers, longtime stalwart conservatives, had concluded those plots were illegal. And Pence didn't want to become a co-conspirator to it, indicted or not. Pence knew Trump had plans for a bloodless coup. That's what it would have been if they worked this all out through all that paperwork and fraud, with lawyers and these government hacks trying to take over. And within a few hours, Pence knew Trump fomented and embraced a bloody coup, as Trump fans literally attacked the government, staged an insurrection, a now convicted sedition, and publicly demanded and worked towards the assassination of then Vice President Mike Pence. You ever stop and take it all in and go, well, we lived through that? And as of last week, no one in government, nobody at the top had been even bothered about it, let alone indicted about it. That all just changed this week. So if you feel that, if sometimes you kind of stop and you take a breath or you get goosebumps or you say, well, maybe we're on the road to some accountability. And by accountability, I mean the justice system process. I do not mean prejudging the defendant. He will get his day in court. He's legally presumed innocent. But that we have a system now where an independent special counsel, who historically has prosecuted Democrats like John Edwards and Republicans and others, Jack Smith, has gathered this evidence together, and this is what he says accountability looks like. He will bring it to court. He will work across the plots. I just showed you a couple, not all of them. And he can only bring a case like this if he, a quite experienced and veteran prosecutor, says he has the goods, that he can prove beyond a reasonable doubt the criminality across the 5 plots we showed you. If it feels big, if it feels momentous, that's because it is.